Hey, campfire crew, let's get it on. Deployment Creep by Emergency Apricot. I'm a retired U.S. Navy sailor. I did one deployment while I was in. We used to have 2 smoke pits on the ship, one for officers and senior NCOs, and one for the rest of us. In my job, I often worked with Marines, and I became friends with one during deployment. He was like a brother to me. We're both bigger guys, gym rats, hit the gym every day, and smoked cigs with each other multiple times a day. We met one night at around 3 a.m. before our shift started. We were talking about the usual BS, and couldn't believe this 8-month deployment was about to last a year. Was it gay to share a cigarette, etc.? Just random BS to make each other laugh. One night, one of the CS, the cooks of the Navy, came out and started smoking. I couldn't say which country he was originally from, but he had a thick accent. He came over and started shooting the shit with us, normal at first. Laughs, concerns, counting down the days till our contract was over, etc. After some time, he turned to us and asked if we'd ever killed someone. And we were both like, no, we have intelligence jobs. And then we started laughing. He didn't understand what was funny. He said, "My friend, murder and destroying a person physically is no joke." We said, okay. And he went on to tell us how the village where he grew up was raided and people were murdered by guerrilla forces. He had been kidnapped and was raised by them. He said he took many lives and eventually started to enjoy it. He said it was freeing and, in a way, the most dominant thing he had ever done. My friend and I both started to get weirded out and said, "All right, nice to meet you. We've got to go to work." As we were leaving, he said, "My friends, don't come to lunch." We both started laughing. We thought he was making a school shooter joke. To cut a long story short, we didn't go to lunch. The captain came over the 1MC shortly after lunch started. He said, "Everyone throw away your food. Don't serve anyone else, and if you have eaten, get to medical immediately." We found out a few hours later what happened. Apparently, the guy who had told us not to go to lunch had poured bleach and other random cleaning chemicals from the supply locker into the water boilers and inside of the ovens when no one was around. I'm not sure how anyone found out. Maybe cameras, maybe the smell, I couldn't say. The guy was promptly arrested and thrown into the brig at the bottom of the ship until we hit our next port. When we hit port, around 6 NCIS agents came to escort him out. I'm not sure what ended up happening to him. Most likely he's in Leavenworth for poisoning and damage to government property, also known as the Sailors and Marines. I'm not sure why he took a liking to my friend and I. I'm not sure why he warned us. I'll never get answers to these questions. And ever since that day, though, I don't take any threat of violence as a joke. Punched in the face trying to get me and my girlfriends home by Anonymous. I was really shaken up by this experience. The context: I'm a 6'3", fit, gay, masculine-presenting guy with my 3 girlfriends. Fit, build, average height, both pretty and dressed for a night out. We're all aged between 18 and 21, and I'm a pretty cautious guy myself, but I try my best to have the presence of mind to not do stupid shit. I've been close friends with these girls for a long time. From midnight to 2 a.m., me and my 3 girlfriends, Ariana, Erin, and Jessie, went to our hometown college bar for a night out. And all was going well through the night. We were dancing with each other, having a good amount of drinks in us. Ariana split with us to go home with a gentleman she met. We had our eyes on each other all night, but left each other alone occasionally so we could talk it up with some guys or go to the bathroom. Still, I was very clearly in a small group with them, and went there mainly to dance, have a good time, and then just head home after. These 3 people, the stud female 29 and queer, and 2 other males around 26 or 30, who had face tattoos and seemed like hoodlums, interacted with Aaron first. It was unclear if this group was under the influence as heavy as we were, if at all. The stud offered to buy Aaron drinks throughout the night, and at one point later on, Aaron and the stud were dancing on each other. At first I was cautious, but it all seemed consensual and adults having a good time. Me, Aaron, and Jesse were together, and they were inviting us to an after-party to celebrate one of the guys' 26th birthday. And at that point, I was put off because they were being very pushy to get us to go with them, and the girls' phones were dead. The bar was closing, and we were pretending to look for Ariana so they would buzz off and let us be. But they kept persisting, telling us that she was fine, they just saw Ariana leave. I was already pulling for everyone to go home, and Aaron and Jesse were very uncomfortable, but we ended up following them. We were drunk. I kept getting pressed by the hoodlums for holding Aaron and Jesse's hands and being overprotective, being told to let them make their own decisions and have a good time. I was still invited to come, but I was not having a good gut feeling. Drunkenly, I was acting nonchalant and not raising my voice or talking directly to the hoodlums. When asked what I was trying to do by them, I just said, "All we're trying to do is go home. We've had a long night." We wound up in the parking lot nearby, and a smaller, dirty white car opened up for us. The 3 hoodlums watched us. There was a random guy in the front seat, and Aaron said there was no room, and I pulled the girls back, just telling them that we should just leave now. The hoodlums were saying things like, "We'll pay you for your Uber back. Hey, is it because we're black you don't want them to come with us? Let them make their own decisions. Hey, is he bothering you, girls? You seriously think I'm not trustworthy? I own businesses, and you're invited, but you need to chill the fuck out." My responses to all of that were short, and they weren't rude either, saying, "Nope, we're good, and I can pay for us to get back, don't worry about it. And we've had a long night." After some back and forth, the stud suddenly punched me in the eye. I stood back dazed, and all I was registering was we needed to get the fuck out of there. I didn't react, I didn't fight back or scream, mostly out of fear. My girlfriends didn't react much this whole time and didn't interact rudely with the hoodlums. They were trying to keep the peace. At that point, I just started walking toward the street to call the Uber. Waiting for the Uber on the street, they approached us again, trying to split me apart from the girls, not forcibly, but by chatting with them separately. Jesse was getting chatted up by one of the hoodlum guys, and he was trying to get her number. Same for Aaron. Aaron let go of my hand and was chatting with the stud and another guy, with additional men suddenly joining them. One of the hoodlum guys offered me $50 to get in the Uber and leave the girls with them to go to this after party. I politely declined, and we stood there waiting for my Uber. My girlfriend's trying to make excuses as to why we were leaving, saying things like, "He's just being protective. We do have to get home. I have work in the morning, and my dad is really strict." The Uber arrived, and me and Jesse approached it and told Aaron to come with us. She followed, and I had her get in the car, followed by me and Jesse. One of the hoodlum guys was by the window, offering the driver money to let us go and telling us that he would pay for the Uber. I didn't let go of my girlfriend's hands this entire time. We broke down in the Uber on the way home, almost sobbing, hugging each other, from how terrifying that experience was. The Night My Friends and I Almost Died by Singer Livid. I never told anyone this story in real life. Not my parents, not my friends. It's been 3 years, and I still don't know if the man in the field was just watching us or waiting for something worse to happen. This happened about 3 years ago, and at the time I didn't know who to tell or talk to because I was in complete shock. So the 2 friends I was with that night, and I decided to keep it to ourselves. I had 2 friends, let's call them Zach and Jake. One random day we were bored, so we decided to host a party at Zach's house over the weekend. He had a big house, a huge backyard, and a pool, so it was perfect. It was also the weekend right before spring break, and his parents were out of town, which made it even better. When the day of the party arrived, we met up hours earlier to set everything up. Later that night, around 80 people showed up, and even more came after. That's when the drinking started. Around 1:30 a.m., people began heading home, but me, Zach, and Jake still had a lot of energy left. I should mention that Zach's house was the last one in his neighborhood. Behind his backyard was a massive cornfield stretching about a mile long. I don't really remember the exact distance. There were no houses behind it, just fields. Zach also had a gate in his backyard that led directly into the cornfield. Zach owned a Can-Am. It had 2 seats, but someone could stand in the back. Around 2 a.m., the 3 of us had the bright idea to take it into the field while blasting music. I was driving, Zach was in the passenger seat, and Jake was standing on the back. We cruised around the field for about 30 minutes before getting bored and deciding to head back, but we decided to take one last turn. Halfway through the field, a man suddenly appeared. He looked around 60 years old with gray hair. He was wearing a vest and holding a hunting rifle with a scope. It was hard to see him clearly because it was pitch black out and the only light came from the Can-Am's headlights. We passed by him without stopping. Then about 500 feet later, the Can-Am suddenly shut off by itself, even though the keys were still in the ignition. My heart dropped. We were still close enough that he could see or hear us, but when we looked back, it was gone. After a few seconds, which felt like minutes, the Can-Am finally turned back on. None of us said a word. We just drove straight back towards the house without looking back. Before going inside, we stopped to catch our breath and process what had just happened. That's when we heard a loud bang and something metal hit the Can-Am. We all froze. A second later, we heard another shot ring out and something whizzed past us. That was enough for us. We jumped back on the Can-Am and sped home. We drove into the backyard, parked it, ran inside the house, and locked every door and window we could find. We turned off every light inside and outside the house. Zach had security cameras, so we went into the room with the monitors showing the backyard and the front of the house. And that's when things got even worse. A car slowly drove through the backyard area and stopped. Its headlights stayed on, and it just sat there idling for about 15 minutes. We didn't recognize the car, and no one got out. We all stayed completely silent, watching the monitors, afraid to even move. Eventually, the car drove away. We didn't sleep that night. What scared us the most was trying to understand why an elderly man would be standing in the middle of a cornfield at 2:30 in the morning, and how a car would have been so close to the house shortly after. The next morning, we checked Google Maps to see where the man could have come from. But there were no houses, no shelters, nothing anywhere near that field. That either meant he was staying out there or had been watching us the entire time during the party. We never told our parents or anyone else. 3 years have passed since then, and the 3 of us have gone our separate ways and don't talk much anymore. But it's a night I'll never forget, and one I still think about every time I hear something outside, late at night. Was I in Danger? By Anonymous. In December of 1978, a few days before Christmas, I was at the edge of the Oregon Dunes National Recreation Area near Klewax Lake, maybe a half-mile west of Coast Highway 101, across from the Jesse M. Honeyman Memorial State Park. The air was slightly hazy, but kind of illuminated by a waning moon between full and third quarter. I was with my German Shepherd, and we'd been walking in this beautiful night. I was warmly dressed, as was my habit. I'd been standing quietly on a high spot with trees on the ridged terrain covering the beach grass and intermittent impenetrable thickets, and I noticed it was about 1 a.m. That's when I saw the silhouette of what I thought was a man approaching me from the north, maybe 400 yards away or so. The person was walking on an elevated ridge that projected him against the skyline, the north-south ridge oriented running past me to the west. Throughout the entire pacing sequence, I could see light through his legs, and not wanting to have an encounter at that hour with anybody or anything, I retreated below the ridgeline and sat down in a concealed and dark hollow with my dog. As this person, or whatever, got closer at a brisk pace, my dog bolted towards him, barking. With his running start, ran to the top of the ridge about 500 feet ahead of the figure. That's when my dog immediately made several yay, yay, yay distress calls and ran back to me, huddling close around my legs and shivering. I should mention here then, that dog had lived in Alaska and had encounters with moose, bear, and other large mammals, and had never reacted that way. The approaching individual seemingly took no notice of my dog, and never broke stride or slowed down, but kept getting closer and closer, just this long, steady stride. At one stage, it made a left turn and walked directly towards me, and I saw that the head and shoulders traveled without much vertical motion, as if the individual were traveling on cross-country skis. I saw a distinct sliding motion of the feet, which I believed was caused by a peculiar sideways swing of its foot and leg. It came to a stop about 150 feet away from me, and I should add at this juncture that during this entire approach, this man or creature walked on the interior half of the foot with a 5-foot pace, as ascertained by inspection on the next day. Yeah, I was crazy enough to go back and check things out, but back to the story. Whatever it was stopped in the exact place where the dog had turned around and faced in the direction my dog had run. I was wearing a hoodie, and I shielded my face with my gloved hands and hood to be less visible. After several minutes with no motion on either side, the person I was looking at seemed to get progressively smaller until only a lump remained visible. I thought about whether this person was receding away, but then realized that it was simply hunkering down and watching me. After a while, in fact, the figure did stand back up and seemed to hold both of its hands beside its head, like it was cupping its ears to hear better in the prevailing brisk wind. Then it started walking more slowly towards me, taking giant steps, again as I would verify later. During its approach, it swayed dramatically from side to side, and I noticed that this creature was evidently naked by its silhouetted legs clearly outlined up to its crotch. Yeah, this was no man. Its legs turned out in a peculiar manner during each step, but each footfall was set exactly in line with the preceding foot, again a detail I verified in daylight. At that point, I was coming to the inevitable conclusion that I was observing a non-human individual. Intermittently, I noticed that the hair on the head and shoulders bristled and flared out, and I could estimate that this thing was between 8 and 9 feet tall. I'm 5'11", and this was way taller than me. During its walking and standing phase, light was always visible between its long legs, which were rather slender in front view, but thicker when I saw it from the side. Its upper and lower legs seemed that they were normal in relative proportions, but longer than human proportions in reference to the upper body. In its face-on view, this thing had a huge head and massive shoulders, like a linebacker. No visible neck, and at one point I noticed it had a peak on its head and a backpack-like hump on its shoulders. It had very long arms, and I could see it swinging clear of the torso on either side as it walked. The hair on the peak of this thing's head occasionally flared up, and additionally was ruffled by the wind. After a little while, the creature held its hands again to its head, and it suddenly dropped low down and then launched itself with a powerful push off the side of the ridge, which was about 10 feet high. It flew into an instant high-speed run, which covered about 95 feet, to concealment in just 3 30-foot steps. The long legs stuck out in front and back, giving the impression of a triple jumper. I looked down at my watch, and to this point, about 30 minutes had elapsed. The creature appeared to run at an angle toward me rather than away, perhaps to circle down to my downwind side. My dog was shivering violently, and I finally decided to stand up and show myself on top of the ridge. I stood there for a moment, waving my walking stick demonstratively in the air to make whatever was looking at me know that I had a weapon. Yeah, not much of a weapon, I know, but it was my first instinct. My dog remained pressed against my side. That's when I decided I had to get out of there. I had to start walking. I fought the inclination to run, and the half-mile or so back to the parking lot in my car was dramatic and scary. When I got there, my dog and I sat in my car with the windows open, listening. My pup would intermittently look in one direction or the other and woof slightly. And that's when the hidden creature let out two intense, loud, and powerful screams. I mean, it was so loud it seemed to paralyze me and my dog. Then it appeared to be gone, and my dog gratefully fell asleep on the back seat. Yeah, I did go back the next day and did see footprints, large footprints, with again 30 inches or so between each stride. The footprints were well over 14 inches long. But the night before, I drove home, but kept wondering how close me and my dog had come to being attacked that night. I was familiar with stories of Bigfoot and Sasquatch, having grown up in Oregon, and I had been reassured by many, many people that the creatures do not normally attack people. But to this day, I still have the feeling that I truly was in danger that night, that I was being stalked, and if I hadn't left when I had, well, I'm not sure what my fate might have been. Paranormal Experiences, submitted by Tanner. I'm 16 years old, and during my time, I've experienced amazing and unfathomable paranormal experiences that people wouldn't even think possible. I'll start from the beginning and work my way through the years. When I was younger, 3 or 4-ish, I would always tell my parents that I saw galaxies before I was born, but they never believed me. But I truly did see them. I don't know how or why, but I just remember existing before I was born. Not doing anything, it was just there. I remember it all vividly, and I'm very religious and still can't find an answer to why I remember this. The strangest part was that I never remembered the beginning. I was just there. Fast forward to late 4th year or early 5-year-old. At some point, I was obsessed with doing somersaults, and one day saw my parents at the bottom of our home stairway. My idiot brain thought it would be cool if I did a somersault down the stairs and sat between them. So I did it. As I was about halfway through the tumble down, I was suddenly watching my own body roll down as if something had just kicked me out of my own body. After that, I blacked out and don't remember waking up. My mom said I didn't receive a single injury from the fall, not even a bruise. Now, at age 5, I still wasn't really aware of Jesus and stuff like that, but I knew ghosts were real. At that point, I'd had dozens of nightmares about non-scary things in my parents' closet, and had seen shadow figures and even a brighter white figure. But one experience stands out at that age. One night, I stayed up in my basement where my room was, watching Disney cartoons on an old gray box TV that we had. Everyone was asleep in the house except me. All the lights were off, but I was happy. I was sitting across from my bed in a rocking chair. Then all of a sudden, the TV turned off by itself, and as it did, I either had a vision of hell or saw directly into hell itself. The second the TV turned off, I was in my room, but it was weird. Everything was a mono gray color. Old stage curtains and flashing lights covered my parents' bedroom doorway. My bed turned into an old mattress on a rusty frame. The TV was there, but all it had was static. The doorway to my room was still there, but it was pitch black, and I felt something approaching it. At that point, I started screaming for my mom to turn the TV back on. But the more I did, the quieter my voice got, and screaming at the top of my 5-year-old lungs felt like whispering. Then my mom came in and turned on the TV. The second she did, everything was back to normal. No one else saw what I had. I've only told my girlfriend this story, who's been on this podcast before. I know this experience wasn't a dream because how would I fall asleep the second the TV turned off and wake up the second it was turned back on? I also remember being fully awake. By the way, sorry this is a long story. After that, not a lot of paranormal stuff happened until my teenage years. From age 13 to 15, I experienced a lot. And one night I was walking to my neighbor's house with my mom. Keep in mind, our houses are separated from the rest of our neighborhood by a bridge. At some point, the road to my house stopped having streetlights, and you couldn't really see anything. Just dark forest. I always knew that something was in the woods near my house, but that night confirmed it. When we got to our neighbor's house to deliver something, we didn't get an answer after we knocked. We decided to call it quits and walk back home, but before we did, we stopped in our neighbor's driveway to listen. We heard a strange noise. Dubstep music was coming from literally nowhere. It sounded faint and off in the distance, which isn't possible due to the separation from the rest of my neighborhood and the main road. So either someone was playing music so loud that everyone around it went deaf, or it was something else. Me and my mom looked at each other, both confused. Then, as we kept walking, I got the feeling of being watched. The very next night, we went out to take my dogs to use the bathroom. They're tiny, so we need to keep an eye on them. I got the same feeling of being watched. Then me and my mom both heard it. A human baby crying, but the cry sounded distorted and elongated. My mom said it was a fox, and foxes are common near my house, so I've heard them before. Whatever that was not a fox. The cry sounded faint, but still too close for comfort. I don't go outside in the dark alone anymore. At the age of 15 or 16 was probably the craziest of everything I've experienced. One night, I was talking to my ex, and about paranormal stuff for some reason. The same night I went to bed, I had a strange dream. In the dream, I was in my parents' bed with two of my friends, and one of them said, "Hey, go get Jordan out of the closet." I said, "Okay," and walked into the dark, ominous closet, thinking nothing of it. Then, as I looked around the tiny walk-in space, a tall, and at least an 8-foot tall, inky, black, bony creature with no eyes was there, and a glowing white smile from ear to ear, and it leaned out of the hanging clothes and said one thing. It said, "Come closer. I'm a satellite." Then during the next few moments, the dream scene changed, first to my school math class, an inky black head with white glowing eyes and long hair with no body seated on a wooden stool there. Then, in an area that looked like my church, another inky black figure with long claws and tall scales on its back that kind of looked like a sand slash from Pokemon. And finally, I was in my basement living room where an inky black spiky blob moved out of my old bedroom. After that, I woke up, and I thought to myself, what the fuck was that? I tried not to think much of it at the time, but before that dream, I'd always felt like I had spiritual attachments. That dream seemed to confirm it. The thing that said, "Come closer, I'm a satellite," felt like it was permanently bound in orbit around me. No, seriously, like they were permanently bound in orbit. All four of those different figures. Fast forward a couple of months, and I was on a trip with my family. We were going to be gone for a month. And then on the plane ride to the location, I had a dream on the plane. In the dream, I was sitting on my couch texting my mom about ghosts. But then I was unable to type or talk during multiple periods. I then looked to my left and saw a sky blue colored baby in a yellow and white polka dot onesie. Its mouth and eyes were stitched up like a doll. Whenever it showed up, I couldn't communicate. So 5 figures so far. What does this all mean? A year later, I was dating my current girlfriend, Jacqueline M. She sent you a story before. I had another dream, but this one was different. I was demon hunting in my home with a full team using thermal cameras and other equipment. We were exploring my whole house, but found nothing, and then as I exited my parents' bedroom into my old bedroom, they were connected, I saw a demon through my thermal camera. A giant hulking behemoth around 10 feet tall, its top half muscular and its legs tiny but large. Its head was kind of anvil-shaped, flat and wide on top, but triangular and pointy too. It walked towards me, and that's where the dream ended. So 6 different figures now. Present day, probably one of the weirdest experiences, this just happened last week while I was on a cruise. It was Christmas Eve, 2025, and I was trying to fall asleep in my room on the ship, but it was unfathomably hot. I mean, the AC was on, but it was still like a sauna. Then I had another weird awake dream thing, like I did when I was 5 years old. But this one was much different. I was on a date with my girlfriend at my high school's football field, just hanging out. Then things got heated, really heated, in an inappropriate way. I obviously won't get into the details. After my trip, I told my girlfriend about it, and she said that she had had the same dream. She said she remembered everything I did, the bleachers, the football field, everything. But what creeped me out the most was that she said she was unbelievably hot, too. I thought it could be a spirit, but was unsure because I thought, how would it know how to link our dreams when we're so far away from each other? I mean, how does it even know where we both are? But then I looked it up. Were we attacked by a succubus? I mean, nights before the dream, I would always wake up with strange bug bites on my body, but there were never any bugs in the room. I checked. Was I really being drained by a succubus? Hey gang, thanks for listening to this episode. If you have a true scary story of any nature that you'd like me to narrate, email it to unclejosh.truescarystories@gmail.com. I read them all. If you're catching this on YouTube and you like what you heard and saw, why not give the video a thumbs up, share it with a friend, leave a comment. I'd love to know what you thought of the stories. It's all free and it all helps out with the algorithms, so I appreciate it. Follow me on social media, and if you'd like to take your support a step further, find a link to my Patreon page in the description, and consider getting some Uncle Josh and Campfire Crew merchandise. A link to my TeePublic storefront is also in the description. Everyone, be excellent to each other, and until next time, be wary of things that go bump in the night. It could be anything. A ghost, a monster, or the guy next door.